Meghan Markle's Spotify podcast archetypes will not be renewed for a second season because it was... Anyway, Meghan reportedly signed a £20 million deal with Spotify for the podcast in late 2020, but insiders close to the audio giant claim that the royal couple did not meet the productivity benchmark required to receive a full payout. So not only have they been dropped because it was... They're not going to be paid because it was... Yes?
My favorite is the statement, Omid Scobie tweeted it, from Harry and Meghan, that somebody leaked this to Deadline in LA, conveniently located, by the way, that it was a mutual parting of ways. But my point is, at some point you see the word Archwell Audio, Archwell whatever, and mutual parting of ways. And it translates to these two people are very challenging to work with. Mm-hmm. You know, mutually parting of ways is a nice sentence, but the 40th time you hear it, you realize you have to think, are you the problem?
All right, guys, so we got to talk about Meghan Markle and her wife, Prince Harry, because they have been dropped from their Spotify deal, or at least the way that the media is reporting it. They have parted ways with Spotify. Okay, I mean, this is similar to how they reported the Jemele Hill story, in which Spotify reportedly is on the verge of dropping her because nobody wants to listen to Jemele Hill be unbothered, right? Because apparently her podcast is actually really about her being bothered, but bothered in the most boring way possible.
A question that I ask every guest that appears on the podcast, since it's called Jemele Hill is Unbothered, and I can't wait to hear your answer. When did you become unbothered? Because it sounds like you've been in that space.
I've been unbothered.
Yes.
I've been unbothered.
Yeah, thought-provoking and truly groundbreaking stuff, right, from Jemele Hill's podcast. So, again, what happened is during the pandemic, the United States government printed trillions of dollars. Interest rates were damn near zero, so money was free. And corporate America benefited the most from the pandemic and the bailout that happened during the pandemic. And they used a lot of that money and spent it on woke initiatives, okay? They decided that in the wake of the George Floyd protests and riots that they were going to try to be as woke as they could, right? They were going to try to address the so-called systemic issues, right? So they went super woke. They got diversity and inclusion departments. They went out and paid people like Jemele Hill and also Meghan Markle as well, too, to say that they support so-called black voices, even though these people don't have an audience and they actually really didn't deserve to get paid, okay? So in Meghan Markle's case, I believe that they paid like $20 million for her podcast, Archetypes, which, you know, again, is like listening to paint dry.
Press her by saying, Markle, suck it in. Markle, suck it in. She admitted that eventually drove her to quit the show.
I was thankful for the job, but not for how it made me feel, which was not smart. And I would end up leaving with this pit in my stomach, knowing that I was so much more than what was being objectified on the stage. I didn't like feeling forced to be all looks and little substance. And that's how it felt for me at the time, being reduced to this specific archetype.
Yeah, so this is the podcast that went viral because she claimed that she felt like a bimbo on Deal or No Deal, just for a couple years later to go on and be in a show, 90210, in which she would be given sloppy top 3,000 to some random dude in a car to try to get ahead in her career. Take a look. Yeah, so much for hating being objectified, right? I mean, but who knows? I mean, maybe Meghan Markle has good head on her shoulders, right? He's got a good brain. And that is why Prince Harry decided to be with her. Who knows? Okay, but regardless, fast forward to today. She's been dropped from Spotify, or they're parting ways. And even in the Spotify executive is coming out here and roasting Prince Harry and Meghan Markle as grifters at the parting ways with the platform because apparently, again, a lot of people are not really feeling this couple like that. And I actually want to play the audio clip of this guy, Bill Simmons, roasting Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and then a news clip to go along with it. But before we get in that, since we're talking about royalty, you have a chance to live like royalty in retirement by investing in gold. And that is why the sponsor of today's video is Noble Gold. Reign in wealth like King Charles with a gold IRA from Noble Gold Investments. Just as King Charles' magnificent gold crown symbolizes wealth and power, a gold IRA can help you fortify your own financial kingdom. Imagine the confidence that comes with a retirement backed by a tangible, proven asset, gold. An asset that's not at the mercy of unpredictable market swings. But isn't a future free of financial stress a worthy throne? Like royalty, enjoy the luxury of choice. Gold, silver, platinum, or palladium, the realm is yours to command. Fend off the concerns about economic downturns and let your wealth thrive with the timeless security of precious metals. This month, the first gold quarter-ounce gold bullion coin ever issued with King Charles III's image can be yours with your own qualifying gold IRA or 401k rollover of at least $50,000 or more. Call Noble Gold Investments today at 877-646-5347 to get started, or go to noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. And just remember, there's a risk with every investment and there's no guarantee of any kind.
I'm going to pose this question to you. You do a lot of business deals, a lot of negotiations.
I do.
Well, let's just.
I wish I had been involved in the Meghan and Harry leave Spotify negotiation. The fucking grifters. That's the podcast we should have launched with them. I got to get drunk one night and tell the story of the Zoom I had with Harry to try to help him with a podcast idea.
Do it.
It's one of my best stories.
Dude, there hasn't been a Drunk Simmons podcast. Let's both get drunk and then it'll just be drunk.
Save that idea.
It'll be really easy.
The grifters.
Here's my...
Harry and Meghan aren't there. Are they trying to get another deal off another company?
Gosh, and I don't think it's looking good for Team Harry and Meghan at the moment. They're slowly starting to lose deal after deal after deal. Look, yesterday we were talking about in the studio how Spotify has decided not to sign them up for a second season of their Archetypes podcast. And now one of the senior executives for Spotify, Ben Simmons, he's come out and he's kind of blasted the pair, and he said that the podcast should have been called The Grifters. I think he's sitting on a story about Prince Harry where he said they had a phone call, and by the sounds of it, Prince Harry wasn't really forthcoming with ideas for the podcast, hence why it hasn't been signed up for a second season. It's a bit unprofessional to come out with this, but Bill hasn't really been a fan of the Sussexes, and in particular Prince Harry. He says that there's no sense of him having all these documentaries, these interviews, and he hasn't really got much to say other than being a royal.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite damning. And the issue is, he's getting it off his chest, but I suppose that damages the prospects for any other company they might be approaching.
I think so. Meghan has said that she is looking for another home for the podcast, so I don't think it's going to be the end of Archetypes. She's just going to have to approach maybe somewhere like Apple to see if they would be interested in it. But you see, the big feedback that's been from the public, I think they're bored. They're bored of Harry and Meghan. So I think, any brand that's going to be looking to sign them up is going to have to tread carefully.
Well, that's the fact, isn't it? That the podcast wasn't very interesting in the end. I mean, Meghan said it was all going to be about independent women being uplifted against the labels that have held them back. It turned out to be just Meghan talking to a couple of friends and actually talking about herself more than interviewing her friends.
And I think that's what's turning people off. And, this is a bit of a second blow for Meghan, because she was also working on a TV series for Netflix, an animation called Pearl. And that didn't even make it to Netflix. They panned it while it was still in the planning stage. So she was working with Elton John's husband, David Furnish, on it. So a lot of these projects that she's trying to do is not actually taking off pretty well. So it begs to ask, why did they leave royal life? Because outside the royal deals. They're finding it very tough. They've got a multi-million lifestyle that they have to kind of keep up with. So with them losing all these brands, it's going to be quite difficult for Harry and Meghan.
Yeah, so according to the Wall Street Journal, they're actually not getting the full $20 million payout that they were supposed to from Spotify, okay? And plans are unclear in regards to whether or not they're actually going to continue this show on another platform because, again, nobody's actually listening to it, okay? The Wall Street Journal reported that the Sussexes would not get the full $20 million payout from the deal with Spotify, citing people familiar with the matter. Archewell did not produce enough content to be eligible for the full payout, the New York Post reported, citing an unnamed source. The Duke and Duchesses of Sussex signed the deal with Spotify in late 2020, shortly after they decided to back up from royal duties, sharing a desire to become, quote, financially independent. Besides their partnership with Spotify, the Sussexes also signed a deal with Netflix in September 2020 that was reportedly worth $100 million. Now, again, I'm not sure if Netflix have got $100 million worth of revenue out of that deal, but I just find it interesting how you have these alleged award-winning podcasts, right? That again is propped up by nothing but the media, right? It's not propped up by the people. It's not propped up by any numbers. They don't have a lot of listeners. These podcasts go out here and again they win awards. Like this podcast won the 2022 People's Choice Awards, right? It also shot to the top of the Spotify charts when it first came out, just for less than a year later it to be canceled. Because again, what I find to be fascinating is that a lot of these people in the media, they don't actually really have talent, right? They can't actually get an organic audience on their own. They're simply only relevant because liberal media told us that these people are people that we should care about. We should care about the things that they say. Again, same thing with Jemele Hill, right? The only reason people know who she is because she was on SportsCenter. When she went out on her own, after leaving SportsCenter, nobody listened to her, right? Her YouTube channel sucks, okay? She has nobody listening to her, nobody watching her videos, nobody enjoying her content. Same thing with Meghan Markle, right? But again, these companies went woke and decided to spend all this money, okay, a lot of money, taxpayer dollars, on these woke initiatives that turns out they did nothing but burn money on fire, right? They weren't going to make any money off of going woke. And now you're saying a lot of these companies dropping these people, right? Like they're dropping these podcasts. They're dropping some of the positions they hired when it came to DEI because they're not turning a profit, right? They're not getting a positive return on investment from this stuff. So again, it's just fascinating to see this stuff come full circle just a few years after 2020 and the beginning of the pandemic, where a lot of these companies, committed to solving or to helping with racial inequality and social injustice, again, just for a few years later to drop those initiatives because they can't make money off of it. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.